Recognize the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that when this Assembly adjourns at the end of this sitting day, it shall stand adjourned to the date and time set by Mr. Speaker upon the request of the Government, and that Mr. Speaker shall give each member 7 clear days' notice, if possible, of such date and time. I so move.
Before I ask for approval of that motion, I have a few comments. As we close this spring session, there are many people that I would like to acknowledge. The Clerk's Office, Irish Lang, Ken Ring, Kathy Biernack, Rob Park, Ann Drake, Daniel Humble-Sellinger, Miranda Gutenwright, the pages, the staff of the Legislative Assembly. Thanks to you all for your amazing teams, for extraordinary work that you do to serve the members. Special thanks to Lyle Fredrickson, Sergeant-at-Arms and his staff, to Steve Bata and his team. We very much appreciate what you do, always on call to respond and accommodate the building needs of the members and staff at any time. To Hansard team, Broadcast Services, the committees branch, we appreciate your many hours of recording, documenting, and facilitating the legislative process. Not always an easy job, especially during heated debate. Thank you to my staff, Sheila Sterling, Twyla Wilson, Nuli Mingo, and the summer student, Danica Rodenbush, for their support, especially during session when things can get chaotic. Thanks for keeping things running smoothly in the office. Thank you, Janet, my constituency assistant, for your diligence and hard work for the last 12 years. We have traveled many miles serving the constituents of bigger Sask Valley. Thank you to my constituents for having faith in me as your MLA, electing me 6 times. It has been an honor and a pleasure to serve. I would like to thank my wife, Cindy, and my family for their ongoing support for my role as an MLA and a speaker. Our families make great sacrifices so that we may serve the citizens of the province. Thank you. When a member is elected by his peers as Speaker, they give up their voice in the Assembly. They take an oath of impartiality to serve the needs of all members and parties. I would like to read the oath that I took when I became Speaker. Members of the Legislative Assembly, I wish to express my gratitude, thanks, and humble acknowledgement of the high honor and Assembly has conferred on me. While I leave the floor of this Assembly to take Speaker's chair, I leave behind all political partisan biases in order that I may discharge with impartiality to all and to the best of my ability the various important duties pertaining to the high office of Speaker. It will be my aim and duty to uphold the principles and traditions of the Assembly and secure for each member the right to express his or her opinions within the limits necessary to preserve decorum, to recognize the rights and privileges of the honourable members, the political groups, and the Assembly itself, to facilitate the transaction of the public business in an orderly manner, and above all, to seek to be fair and impartial in the decisions you entrust in me. I carried out my duties despite the behavior of the government leadership, which will I now take this opportunity to explain the challenges that I've had as Speaker. The signs of inappropriate behavior by the Government House Leader took place with a former Speaker. The Government House Leader, MLA for Meadow Lake, bragged that he could get the Speaker to rule in any way that he wanted. There's plenty of evidence that did take place. The Government House Leader would text the Speaker how he should rule on a regular basis. The Speaker resigned and ran federally. Speaker Mark Doherty would not bow to the intimidation from the Government House Leader. Mark said he just shut off his cell phone. While I worked with Mark on the Board of Internal Economy, the Government House Leader was talking about having the Speaker Doherty removed. When I became Speaker, the intimidating and harassing text messages began immediately, trying to influence my rulings. My experience with the Government House Leader in the chambers includes threatening gestures whenever I ruled against him during session. He would start yelling at me and stand up and flash his suit jacket and storm out. An example of inappropriate behavior and attempting to influence me as a speaker is one of the hundreds of text messages Government House Leader sent. The example of one of these text messages was sent on March 22nd, 2023, and I quote, "That's an absolute bullshit ruling, completely wrong, and Iris will tell you that." Iris referring to the clerk. I'll say it again, March 22nd, 2023, from the Government House Leader concerning a ruling that I made. That's an absolute bullshit ruling, completely wrong, and Iris will tell you that. It soon got back to me that my removal as Speaker was discussed on a regular basis in the Government caucus. Last fall, the Government House Leader stopped sending inappropriate text messages to me, but continued sending them to the clerk. The Government House Leader handed over the duty of texting me to the Deputy Government House Leader MLA for Estevan. She especially harassed me during the emergency debate on the parental rights motion. And I'd like to read into the record a series of messages from the member from Estevan during that debate. On Monday the 16th, she texted, "Should she be speaking to the motion in front of her sitting hours?" Just curious what leeway she had or has. Thank you. She is not on the motion. She will have an opportunity to speak to this when she actually speaks to the bill. Once again, if you want MS to speak to the bill, we will have a chance, but he needs to be speaking to the motion of extended hours and rules. Thank you. State of health care. This has nothing to do with the motion. Sorry to keep harping. On October 17th, she texted, "It's been pretty good today. Can you ask her to talk to the bill, please?" I replied once, I said I did, and then she replied, "But she is not listening. This is not about health care. The bill, please. This has nothing to do with the bill. Can you please bring her back to the bill?" Thursday, October 19th, she texted me, "You going to bring her back to the bill?" Think about this. You going to bring her back to the bill? That's when I got up, as I've done many times, and handed the chair over to the Deputy Speaker. And as I went out that door, went down to the end, I'm going to go up by the government lounge like I do, because it's the shortest route to my office. There was a staffer, a government staffer, sitting in a chair, only person out there. And as I went by the government lounge, as I passed the government lounge, Reg Downs, special advisor to the Premier, came out of the lounge and lunged at me, nearly hitting me, and stamped his feet very aggressively. It was obvious there was communication between the government Deputy House Leader, the government staffer, and Reg Downs, who was waiting inside the government caucus lounge. This is not the first time I was threatened like this. Another MLA rushed me at a party function and came very close to headbutting me. The government House Leader leader of the MLA from Meadow Lake showed signs of inappropriate behavior from the time he was first elected. Misleading statements and out-and-out lies. He has been called out numerous times. He expects his staff to go to his home, pick up his clothes. He has trouble keeping staff. There's a revolving door of staff coming and going. But more disturbing is his obsession with guns and his use of intimidation, both verbally and physically. His desire to get permission to carry a handgun in the Legislative Assembly is particularly disturbing. Another incident reported by a former special constable was when the government House Leader flaunted the rules concerning weapons when he brought a hunting rifle into the Legislative building. He owns many weapons, including a .223 AR-style 4-shot clip, lightweight, which looks like an assault weapon. Weapons like these can be easily converted to more than 4 shots. As I stated before, my experience with the government House Leader includes threatening gestures. Whenever I rule against him in the Assembly, he will start yelling at me and standing up and flashing a suit jacket. As the gestures and behavior became more aggressive, I worried that he might be carrying a handgun. My concerns over his mental stability and his obsession with guns was only confirmed when he heckled after the passing of the motion to devolve all relevant parts of the Firearms Act of the province, he twice yelled, open carry next." Many people have asked me what I plan to do after politics. I have an opportunity to participate in international electoral observation missions around the world. But first, before I travel thousands of miles to support democracies facing challenges worldwide in recent decades, with the resurgence of populism and the increase in popularity of leaders with autocratic tendencies, I'm going to carry out the remainder of my term as Speaker right here in Saskatchewan, championing the electoral process and continue being the custodian of this institution and defend and protect our democracy. Saskatchewan is blessed with wonderful people, whether they are Indigenous or descendants of immigrants or newcomers who have only been living in Saskatchewan for a few years. Saskatchewan is also blessed with rich agricultural land, vast natural resources, and a first-class entrepreneurial spirit. Saskatchewan deserves a government that reflects those values, our province's values of honesty and integrity. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried. This House now stands to the call of the Chair.